you offer one-on-one coaching.
Yeah.
And do you coach with men and women or just men?
Yeah, I don't see any reason to segregate it.
And so do you get questions from women as well?
Sure.
How would you? What's your coaching for? What's the purpose of it?
I mean, I coach people because I enjoy it, right?
And so, is the purpose to bring the people to peace?
Well, it depends on what they want from it. I don't come into it and try to mold them in my image, right? I want to help them get what they want.
Do they tell you what they want?
Yeah, sometimes it takes a little digging, but eventually.
Oh, they do? And what is it that they want? Most people want what so far? How long you been doing this?
Maybe a year or so now.
Oh, okay.
I mean, everyone wants happiness.
Most people say they want.
Everyone wants happiness. It goes by different names. You know, people want this on the surface or that on the surface, but if you look beneath it, it's always happiness.
It's always happiness. Which is better, happiness or peace?
It's not a question of which is better. It's a question of what inspires a person.
Which is everlasting, happiness or peace?
Well, I mean, happiness is fleeting, right? You know, take a sip of water that satiates your thirst for a moment and you feel happy. But I think about peace as being content in all circumstances.
Okay. So did you grow up with both parents?
Yeah.
Your father and mother?
Mm-hmm.
Who were you closest to?
I don't know that I was really closer to one or the other.
You wasn't close to either one of them?
No, I'm close to both of them.
I'm sorry?
I'm close to both of them.
Equally?
Sure.
So you as close to your father as you are to your mother?
Yeah.
Have you always been that way?
Yeah, as far as I can remember.
As a little kid? So what do they think about what you do?
I haven't asked.
Do they know what you do?
Yeah.
And they don't comment on it at all?
I mean, we talk about philosophy, sure, but I don't ask people's opinion on what I do because I don't really care about anyone's opinion.
You don't care about anyone's opinion?
Not even my own.
You don't care about your own either?
No.
How you know your opinion is right?
I think the two terms are at odds with each other.
I'm sorry?
I think there's no such thing as right opinion.
There's no such thing as right opinion?
No, because if it was right, it would be truth, right? Then it wouldn't be opinion.
Amazing. Interesting, man. It was something that you said I wanted to ask you about. I wrote it down so I didn't forget. So you have peace now, right?
Yeah.
And at one time you didn't have peace.
Mm-hmm.
And why didn't you have peace?
Because I wanted so many different things.
You wanted different things?
Yeah.
Like what?
I mean, you want to be successful, you want to have a good job, you want to have good relationships, you want to be healthy, all these different things. When all those desires go away, they go away either because you fulfill them or because you get over them, then you're peaceful.
Do you have all those things now?
Most of them.
Which you don't have?
I can't even remember what I just listed. I actually don't even spend any time thinking about what I don't have.
Do you have a good relationship?
I'm currently single, but I have good relationships with my family or friends. So.
But not with a girl?
No.
Do you want one with a girl?
I'm sure, if it comes along.
If it happens, fine, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Do you want to be married one day with a family?
Sure.
You want that?
Yeah.
I see. You say that you approach your work from a standpoint of truth. How do you do that?
Well, it's about looking for the way things are rather than looking for a way to solve a problem. The solution to a problem always lies in the problem, right? It's not some separate thing.
Give me an example of how you do it personally.
So with anger, for example, right? There's, if you look up like how do I get rid of anger, you have anger management workshops, right? And that's a solution, but it's not a real solution because it's a treatment rather than a cure. It's literally anger management. How do I manage my anger, not how do I get rid of my anger? So you have to look at why you become angry in the first place if you want to get over anger. You have to figure out the truth of what causes anger and why you're prone to it.
And you say what caused your anger is because you wanted something?
Yeah, it's expectation.
Expectation.
Or hope or whatever term you want to use.
And what brings on expectation?
I think it's more habit than anything else, right? We're taught to expect things from others.
I see. And so now you have no expectation from anyone.
I see that's a dangerous statement because expectation can mean different things, right? I have no need for anyone to act in a certain way. I might have like some sort of probabilistic expectation that, I think this is probably going to happen, but I don't get attached to what I want other people to do or to what I think should happen, anything like that.
I'm not quite understanding how you help a stranger because you don't seem to have those steps. If a stranger called online and asks you a question, they're like, James, I want a car, and I can't live without an automobile. What would you tell them? What would be the first steps to overcoming that?
If they want a car, there's nothing wrong with wanting a car, right? I don't try to tell everyone like, oh, you should get rid of all your desires because then you're going to be happy. Like that's silly, right? If you want something, get it. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not the type of person to help you get a car because that's not my specialty.
How about if a guy told you, I want a woman?
Well, I'm not a dating coach.
You would say I'm not a dating coach?
Yeah, but
You would say, hey, you came to
if
the
someone
wrong guy
comes
for that.
if someone comes to me and says, I have all these desires and I realize that they're making me unhappy and I want to stop living this way, then we have something to talk about, right? Because then that's my area of expertise.
Oh, I see. And what would be your first step to overcoming all those desires?
Yeah, I don't think it's really about steps. It's not about a particular methodology. It's just you question it until you reach the truth, right? And it's not even about questioning it because you're supposed to question it. It's about questioning it because you have a genuine desire to find the truth.
So you would, if I called you up, you will question me about my desires until we can see why I have it?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the only reason that you have a desire you want to get rid of is because you don't understand why you have the desire in the first place.
Are you a Christian?
I don't identify with any religion.
Do you believe in God?
I don't believe things.
I'm sorry?
I'm not a big fan of belief.
So
But the only reason a person believes something is because they don't know it's true, right? So if you're a proponent of truth, then by definition you're opposed to belief.
So you don't believe there is a God? How would I ask you that question if you don't? How would I ask you about God?
I don't know if there is a God or not. That's the truth, right? It's
So
do you know if there is a God? Because believing doesn't get one anywhere.
So do you
I neither believe nor disbelieve.
that there is a God?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Were you raised as a Christian?
No.
You were raised as what?
I was just raised.
What the? So your parents just dropped you out and didn't let you be?
Yeah, they just sent me off into the world alone.
As a
no,
little
I mean
kid?
they, instilled their values in me, sure.
They did?
Yeah.
Were they Christians?
No.
Were they atheists?
We've never really actually talked about what they are, but they don't instill any religion in me. I don't see any religion.
So as a little child growing up, are you an only child?
No.
As a child growing up, you never discussed God or Christianity or Judaism or Allahu Akbar or anything with them?
I'm sure we talked about it at some point. I don't really remember.
Really? And they never tried to take you to church or anything?
I've been to a church before.
And how was that for you?
It was fine.
And what would you like about it?
I don't know that I liked or disliked it. It was just another experience, right?
Oh, so are you just walking through life without I don't know where you're coming from right now.
Yeah,
Explain to the folks what you're about so they can understand.
I think it's a really wonderful thing to go through life without a care. That's something that speaks to me on a deeply personal level.
Without a care.
Yeah.
And what does that mean to be without a care?
It means you're free. It means you're not weighed down by events that go poorly or even events that go well. It means that things don't weigh on you. There's a lovely saying, I forget actually who said it. It's from some Eastern philosopher, maybe Chuang-Tzu. And he said, the perfect mind is like a mirror. It reflects, but it does not hold. That's really the essence of what I'm talking about.
And break that down for us dummies.
Well, it means, you know, when something bad happens in a person's life, what do? They go home, they spend the next 30 years reliving it again and again and again and again and again.
Right.
That's chronic suffering, right? I think what would be perfect is if you could go through your life, whatever happens, happens, and you're not going to suffer about it after the fact.
So if a wife should lose a husband that she's been with for 50 years, and they're like one together, and he dies, she just say, "Oh well, he dead, move on."
Well, if she suffers over it, what does that bring her?
Are you saying she should not suffer?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm simply posing the question: what does suffering bring? Is there any benefit to it? I don't think there is.
Oh, I see. So what would you say to her? She call you up, James, my husband died, and I'm feeling pain, I'm suffering. What would you say to her?
Well, see, even that statement, that doesn't necessarily imply the need for a response, right? It's just a statement, I am suffering. I don't even see suffering as something that has to be solved, right? It's just
But people
there.
live that way, and people think that
Well,
way.
people have all sorts of assumptions.
I know, but when she call you up, she's trying to get help. And
So
James,
if she asks for
and
help,
she's
then
not
we have
as
something to
smart
talk
as
about.
you, right? She call you up because she want help. James, I'm suffering. My husband died at 50 years. I'm suffering. What should I do?
Okay, see, the what should I do now, we have something to talk about, right? So then we have to understand what it is that's causing the suffering. And inevitably, with relationships, it's some sort of attachment, right?
She was attached to her husband.
Of course.
Right. And what would you say to her about getting over that?
Yeah, I don't know that there's any one magic combination of words you can use. I don't even think you can solve that on a hypothetical level. I think that has to come in the moment.
Amazing. So what is it like for you walking through life not knowing that there is a God or not?
I think it's only a problem if a person is bothered by the lack of certainty.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if you go through your life thinking, God, I really don't know if God exists, that really worries me, then you have a problem. If the thought literally never crosses your mind, you don't have a problem.
So it never crossed your mind about whether there's a God or not?
Well, no, it doesn't, then I'll explain why. If there is a God, the problems of my daily life are still the problems of my daily life. If there is no God, the problems of my daily life are still the problems of my daily life. So I'm not going to rely on some external figure to solve my problems. I'm going to solve them on my own.
So you wouldn't rely on God to solve them, you would solve them?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. And you would solve them by not thinking about them?
Well, it depends on the problem. I mean, every problem is solved by discovering the truth. If the truth about a problem is that it is created solely by thinking about it, then obviously the solution to that problem is not to think about it.
What's the primary causes of problems? What's the primary cause of
With
problems?
a capital P.
Yeah.
Well, every problem is caused by the desire for it to be other than the way it is.
Meaning that people want their life to be other than what it is?
Yeah. I mean, there's no problem without a person standing here saying, I have a problem.
Do you live in a home or on the street?
In a home.
And why do you live in a home instead of living on the street?
So I enjoy it.
Could you enjoy living on the streets too as a homeless person?
I'm sure I could. I don't see why.
How would you enjoy it?
Well, you can be happy without the material comforts. It's more difficult, certainly, but there's no reason to impose additional suffering on whatever your circumstances are already applying. And the additional suffering that you impose on your situations comes from the way you're thinking about them.
So let's try to help the people understand the beginning. All right. So you know you're doing this. You understand what you're doing, right? But for a person that doesn't understand and they find you on Google or however they find you, and they want your help because you're a life coach, and even though you don't want to, title it philosopher, you are a philosopher, right? And so how would you help a lame person get going?
It always circles back to what they really want. I hate to to even use the term step, because then it sounds like I'm, telling you like this is what you do, then this is what you do, then this is what you do. But step one is really figuring out what you genuinely, truly desire.
And how would you know what you generally true desire?
Well, you can see it in your actions, right? A person says one thing and they do another, you know that they really desire what they're doing rather than what they say. On some level, you have to just know.
Our society is crazy right now. Would you agree to that?
Sure.
People fighting one another. Everything is happening that seems to be bad. How would you resolve those problems, those issues?
Well, the problem is, as long as there's internal conflict, there's going to be external conflict. So there's never going to be a perfect solution on a societal level. I mean, you can develop systems that, reduce violence or strife or whatever you call it. But if you're talking about perfection, total absence of conflict, that has to start on a personal level.
How would you resolve the conflict between the races or men and women and all that?
I don't really know, honestly. I don't follow it enough to know what the situation is clearly or...
Do you believe all those problems come from inner conflict?
Well, every problem comes from inner conflict.
Yeah. And what does that mean exactly?
I mean, on the basic level, it's, I think one thing, but I also think this thing, and these two things are in conflict with one another. For example, if I think I'm a very shy person, and I really ought to be more outgoing, then I've set up an ideal of outgoingness versus the way I am, which is shyness, and those two things are now in conflict.
And so you would recommend they overcome that by doing what?
Well, you just have to see through it. I mean, there's always conflict between what is false and what is false, or what is false and what is true. There's never conflict between what is true and what is true. So if you search for the truth, your inner conflicts naturally disappear.
So is it a false idea to see yourself as shy and think there's a solution to that?
Could you repeat that?
Is it a false idea to see yourself as a shy person and believe that you need to do something to overcome it?
I think, specifically shyness is more a habit than a personality trait, I think. So there's kind of a false identity wrapped up in that, but the other falseness is the idea that I should be a certain way. I mean, if I really should be a certain way, I would already be that way, right? If should were truth.
So you shouldn't think you should be a certain way.
Well, it's not that you shouldn't think you should be a certain way. It's just if you want to resolve your conflict, you have to see through that.